To lead in a world that never stops evolving, you need insights from those who are driving change. Welcome to Breakthrough Innovations, where we bring together the top leaders and innovators who are reshaping their industries. I'm JL Heather, the Principal Executive Coach at Center, and in each episode I sit down with game-changing executives who share the strategies, insights, and challenges that fuel their success. In the next 20 minutes, you'll gain practical takeaways to drive your own breakthroughs. So if you're ready to stay ahead, join us here on Breakthrough Innovations. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Breakthrough Innovation. With us today is our guest, David Mitchell, and my co-host, Preston Chandler. David is the principal author of the open source journey-driven development methodology and is an avid programmer. In the 1990s, he helped a boutique artificial intelligence firm survive an AI winter. David serves on the board of directors for We Code KC, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to building a pipeline of tech-ready professionals from our urban core. And last, but certainly not least, David works as a CTO at VML. David, thank you so much for being here. We're thrilled to have you on the show.
Thank you. I mean, I'm overjoyed to get to spend some time with you guys again, and yeah, great to get it recorded too. This is awesome.
I know. I have a feeling this will be a fun, lively conversation. But to start, maybe you could share a little bit about your journey and tell our listeners what led to your current role.
Yeah, you have a title like CTO or like that, it is not like the kind of CTO that I am is very different from a lot of other CTOs in that I don't own a tech stack. And so all of my teams do work for our clients. And so we have lots and lots of different tech stacks. And that title, I mean, it sort of implies that like you knew how to get there because you were a chief. And I always say like careers only make sense like looking backward where it looks like a straight line, but throughout, I think it's felt like, certainly those moments where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's next. I don't know how to get to what's next. But yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate. I have always been into computers and programming, at least as early as I can remember them being available to me, which I think I was probably like 7 or 8 when I started learning about them in the 70s. I think my first computer camp was in 1981, which I figured out just by like the fact that there was an IBM PC that only had 16K and a cassette drive. It didn't even have the floppies yet. And there was Apple IIs and Radio Shack TRS-80 Model 1s. But yeah, I've always been into computers and programming, but, never really still not really good at math. Everyone around me knows this. And I don't have a formal comp sci degree. And so, getting into a programming career was kind of a circuitous path. I used to answer the, telephones for a CAD company. And then I got into technical documentation, technical writing, which I think is something that we share. I've gotten to work with you guys on books before. I'm currently reviewing your current book, which is the same title as this podcast. And I've tried to write. I've tried to write as well. But yeah, I mean, throughout that, just, getting better at programming and at the same time getting better at leadership, leading teams and not knowing really what I was supposed to do and kind of learning the hard way. It's mostly not about you. It's mostly about them. And that whole path of like getting better at leading teams of teams and, kind of organizational growth. Some of the things that I picked up reading your latest book, which is like, it's learning over perfection, which I think is for me a personal challenge. I'm a very critical person, a critical reader, but bringing that critical eye is not always the most valuable thing to do as a leader. And so that's been a personal struggle. I know you guys have both worked with me on that specifically in the past with some feedback as we've had a chance to work together. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been very fortunate to have great mentors throughout my career, great people who believed in me, and honestly, just great companies that I've gotten to work with that have given me, chances to both, succeed and fail and learn from failure as much as we learn. I think also sometimes we forget to learn from success, but yeah, I mean, I've been, with the best company I've ever worked for, VML, for 15 years. And that's been honestly a dream job. And that is where I met both of you. And, And it's a place that's given me a lot of opportunity to work with great clients, great brands, great teams, and I feel very fortunate to have landed up where I am. Even if I always say, like, we've even talked about this idea of like your journey is composed of both the course and the weather, and
Yeah.
ignore the weather at your peril. But don't make your life about the weather, right? Make your life about your
Right.
journey. Make your life about your course, and just keep coming back to that. And I think that's that idea of iteration. So,
Love it. Well, and with VML as kind of the common connection between the three of us, one of the things I've always loved about the agency world is the breadth of experience you get. I like to talk about how a normal person gets 1 year of experience every year, and you work in
yeah,
an agency and you get somewhere between 3 and 5 years of experience every year, just from the breadth of the work you do. So I know, David, you see a lot across some really big, well-known companies, and AI has been a big part of that, as it is in every conversation these days. So I'm curious how you see AI shaping the future of innovation. What's changing? What's not?
yeah. Almost everything is changing. I feel like I know you guys do conference talks. I have a list of topics that if someone invites me to a conference, I'll say I can talk about any of these 11 things. And for the past 6 years, without exception, they have chosen essentially the same talk, which is great because I've really been, I've got this thing
You're
down
nailing
at
it
this point.
now.
But I mean, it's a fast moving space. And I think the first time I was asked to talk about, the architecture for AI that we see in solutions was probably 2016, and that is well before transformer architecture, the current hype. That I honestly, I've always been kind of an AI curmudgeon, as said in the open. I did work for a firm called Applied Reasoning that pretty much collapsed in the 90s, and I ran off and did web consulting for them. But that stuff still exists. Rules engines still exist. That's mostly what we were doing at the time. We don't call that AI anymore, but you see that as the control structure for a lot of modern AI. But I think what I'm excited about is when we're using AI with a human in the loop. I think there are places where we're playing with it without a human in the loop. A lot of the talk about agents, I think, is exciting. I do think that there's just just the idea of taking language off the table as a challenge, both from a understanding what I mean and mapping that to an output. Even if I do think the outputs are somewhat unreliable right now, and that's why I'm like human in the loop. It's great. It's a great starter. It's a great way to begin a conversation. It's a great way to begin your thinking, a way to expand your thinking. And I don't think there's a single person at my company that isn't being encouraged every day. And I have on my desktop, one of the nice things about working for a big company is, and our parent company, WPP, is they make significant investments in making sure that we have access to lots of tools. And so they're covering our license costs for, you name it, of any of the frontier models that are out there today. And they're encouraging us to play and explore every day. That said,
Yeah, new
we also have,
sandboxes for people to play in, right?
yes, but we also have, ongoing legal teams that are hosting, ask us anything questions twice a week because people are doing things that you're like, whoa, pump the brakes. Have you checked that work? I do think having humans in the loop is really a thing that's driving, incredible, making individuals more creative, giving them more opportunity to express an idea. Right. I still think in almost every case, except when we're going for a particular look. I mean, people think an advertising agency produces a lot of advertisements. I've worked there 15 years. I have a team of about 1,500 engineers in the Americas, and I don't think any of them has ever worked on an advertisement. So we're a marketing firm that helps people with challenging creative ideas, and having these kinds of tools in your toolbox is amazing. But having them run amok without a person guiding them or an expert guiding them, that is, I think, the thing that we're mostly like, cautioning our clients and saying, hey, here's how it can help in your workflow. And here's how it can help in ideation. And here's how it can, give you, if you're, when you guys have run more workshops than I've probably participated in. But sometimes no one in the workshop can really draw, and it's like, hey, what if you have something doing little sketches for you as you go, and you can just throw those up there too. I mean, so I think there's a ton of things that's happening throughout the creative process and the innovation process, and that's what I'm really excited about. I think that's the thing that's going to be transformative.
So you touched on something. You talked about it kind of from the AI perspective, but I'd love to hear about it from kind of the employee, the human perspective. What do you think the role of the humans is going to shift to?
Well, I do believe that, I heard someone recently say, hey, I want the AI to do my dishes and my laundry so that I can do the writing and the drawing, right? And I do think that, we should be endeavoring to empower the human to be the creator, right? And to
Yeah.
be the force of creativity. And while I will admit, I've been on some conference talks where I was like, hmm, maybe I got on this conference talk through a relationship and not because I know a lot about this particular panel. I mean, go look at my
Yeah.
public talks and you can figure out which one it is. But and maybe I put in some things into an AI to spur my thinking, be like, oh no, wait, you've done work like that. Okay, you have stories to tell, but fundamentally, the stories that I tell are actual stories from working with people, right? Actual stories, and I think even when we're using a lot of AI um, in the process of creating output, usually a person or we often think of a creative, but someone with a if you're thinking of something visual, someone with a creative eye will say, I see what you're going for, right? And you've generated a picture. I can either make a photo shoot or I can use, a licensed Getty image or something. And here is an actual picture of an actual person in an actual environment. And do you see how that actually is? It actually creates a deeper emotional connection, right? And I think the same thing is true with words. I think if you struggle with words, if you struggle with writing, then an AI can elevate that for you. But if you're great at writing, you can take that starter and elevate it to the end. So I do believe that that's what I mean by human in the loop is that while AI can help everyone get to the mean, to do great things, you still need human creativity. I think that's going to be true. In the I don't believe the current crop of artificial intelligence is designed to take us to the peaks. I think it is designed to take us to the mean, which is okay. The mean is better than a lot of blank sheets of paper, better than a lot of initial drafts. But I do
Right.
think the fundamental, I always say to people, I was like, you can use whatever tools you want. When you put your name on it, that's your work. And I'm going to hold you to producing great work, regardless of how you got there.
There's this story I remember hearing about a professor who kind of did an experiment with his photography class. Some of the students for the final, he said, I want one perfect image. That's it. And the other students, he said, I need a bunch, right? Like, give me
Mm.
a whole portfolio. And what he found was the students that focused on the one perfect image versus the students who had the portfolio, the quality of the portfolio on average was much higher than that one image that the student
Mm.
gave. The reason being, the people with the portfolio experimented. They tried a whole bunch of things, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. But they came up with unexpected high quality results that they then elevated. And the students that went for that single image tried to play it safe, tried to make it perfect, and it just didn't quite get there. And they missed all these opportunities. And with
Yeah.
listening to you talk, that's the story that comes to mind. Is AI helps us build the portfolio, and we can elevate from there. And I love it
Yeah, does
because
it give
how
you
I
the
use it.
chance to explore more ideas than you would have
Yeah.
had, right? And I think that's the cool thing. I think the idea that it's just like, like um, I do think these will be disruptive things and it will change the nature of work. I don't think it will result in fewer people being employed, although it's not lost on me, what happened to the coal miners in Appalachia. So it's like, as a knowledge worker, I am certainly interested in the role for humans in knowledge work, but I do think that these are tools that will allow us individually to try more things and allow our teams collectively to try more things. But I think that the final outputs will still be owned by people and teams working together. And so that's my optimistic view. I keep my eye out for the rise of the robots as well, but I sleep pretty well at night.
So for leaders who are moving in and like really looking at how their organizations can innovate with AI, What's your piece of advice for them? Your one
Yeah,
takeaway for them?
I'm somewhat of an AI curmudgeon skeptic. I think I've said that a few times, but um, I think of it right now as there's a magic craze sweeping the country, right? And if everyone is going to do some close magic or some cool tricks, and everyone's buying tricks and trying things out, you should probably also be visiting the magic store. Right. And you should be learning how to do some tricks. And you should be learning that it's not actually magic. And that's the thing I always remind people is like, hey, it's a compound noun. It's artificial intelligence. It's not intelligence. That's a different thing. It doesn't mean it's not useful. In the same way, I love bacon, and I think bacon is fantastic. And if I went to a restaurant and said, could I have some bacon? And they gave me artificial bacon, I would be disappointed. And that's not to say that artificial bacon isn't a fantastic product. If you're on a low sodium diet and you're just looking to spice up a salad, artificial bacon, way to go. Way to go, science. Thank you for bringing us artificial bacon. But it is no substitute. And even turkey bacon, come on, no substitute for actual bacon. We know what actual bacon is. And I think that same thing is just remembering that you are getting a substitute for, and what you really want is actual intelligence. What you really want is, actual breakthrough ideas and breakthrough creativity. And I think that's still the domain of people. And I think that will remain the domain of people. But you definitely should be learning magic tricks. Magic tricks are awesome. And this particular set of magic tricks can really boost your effectiveness, your productivity, and raise the baseline of, your worst idea. And I think that alone is amazing. So I am using it every day. I'm using it during ideation. I'm using it and a variety of different tools towards this. I'm using it to analyze, my own past writing. So I have little digital David twins that I chat with, and it's not bad. It's not bad. It's, yes, no, it might be too much for you, but for me, it's great. But yeah, saying I don't know, you guys produce a lot of writing, right? You can have these little RAG-based, retrieval augmented generated, AI bots that can help you find things. And remember, that thing of when you find things on the internet that you actually wrote, I don't know if you've ever had that experience of searching for something and being like, oh, I wrote that, and so that, that kind of thing, it's I think that's a superpower, super empowering, right?
Awesome.
So
I love it.
What I'm hearing, just to rephrase that, it sounds like you're saying AI has a huge power for human augmentation, for human elevation, and we shouldn't be thinking about it as human replacement.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even some of the early AI groups, if you've ever seen the mother of all demos, like Doug Engelbart showing off, the mouse for the first time. And I'm trying to remember the name of his organization, but I believe that they were really interested in augmented intelligence. And I think that idea, again, this is 1960s. It happened before I was born even. I was born in 1970. So, it's this incredible computer demo. I think it was 69, but it might have been 71, 72. I don't know. I certainly wasn't playing with supercomputers at that time with mice. That would come much later for me. But this idea of saying, how can we augment people, right? How can we give people more creative power? I think that's where we're at, and I do think we've got 2 to 3 years of runway of coolness. Even if we're starting to hear people are hitting the wall. Even if they hit the wall, the commercialization of the frontier models will be a boom for at least 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you or find ways to collaborate with you?
Well, I'm David Mitchell. I used to say I'm at David Mitchell on Twitter, and I still own that. I'm just not on Twitter anymore. I said, and you guys laughed, but I'm really trying to get back into Mastodon. And I am David.Mitchell at mastodon.social. And so, that said, I haven't posted anything there, but I'm I'm going to get back into Mastodon. That's my New Year's resolution, is to start getting back to writing. I have a blog which I post almost never. It's called withaguide.com. But yeah, if you want to hit me up, I am David.Mitchell at Gmail. And so yeah, you can find me there, and hopefully I'll start being more on the socials. But yeah, I've kind of fallen off the Twitter bandwagon in the last couple of years, so I need to get
I'm
back.
with you there. And thank you so much, David, though, for being here. This was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I'm really grateful we had the chance to hear your insights. And then for everyone who's listening, thanks for making it all the way to the end. I really hope you found some value in today's episode, and please consider leaving a like, a rating, or a review in wherever you're listening to the podcast. And then if you know anyone who's interested about the future of AI and how to incorporate it into your innovation efforts, please share this episode with them. We'd love it. And then lastly, don't forget to take one actionable insight from today, apply it, and let us know how it goes because we'd love to hear about your progress. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time on Breakthrough Innovation.